Hello, everybody, and welcome to Real Madrid Hub, your source for Real Madrid news. I am your host, Eric Rivera, and in an article recently by Diario Marca, Aurelio De Laurentis, the president of Naples, is saying that he is working on another project different from the Champions League and the Europa League. Could it be the possible Super League? Well, he doesn't go into any details, but the fact is he was speaking to the Daily Mail before his team, Naples, will play Leicester in the group phase of the UEFA Europa League. And he was saying that these two competitions do not generate enough income so to justify that the clubs participate in said tournament. He said to be competitive in these tournaments, you need players of a very high level. That means that you need to spend more money and you need to get more money. And these competitions, the European competitions such as the Champions League and the UEFA Europa League, are not taking that into account. He was also talking about things such as saying that he is doing studies and essentially that there has to be a championship, a European championship that has an entrance that's a little more democratic based on the teams that, based on the national, how they place in their national leagues. Something, of course, that this is the meritocracy that was so talked about when the Super League was mentioned, and something that was the reason I think mostly that a lot of people kicked back against Florentino Perez's plan of the Super League was the fact that it seemed like there was no meritocracy. It was going to do away with the leagues essentially. But now it seems like that is something that they are revisiting at this point, but that they are planning completely on moving forward with the Super League. But the idea is that, he says, De Laurentis says that he's been examining a project that is apparently going to support European football by injecting more than 10 billion euros into it. But he says it requires that that it's completely voluntary and essentially that we have total independence. I am assuming he means total independence from total independence from UEFA. So in this case, it does seem like he is talking along the lines of the Super League, but not getting so much into it, of course, to not, incur the wrath of Mr. Ceferino from UEFA. But of course, there are a couple of different things where it seems like he coincides with a lot of things that Florentino Perez has said in the past, saying that there was studies, that the youth is losing their interest in football and that they have a lot of different platforms now to entertain themselves. He said essentially very along the lines of what Florentino said: if we do not change the rules of the game and convert it into a better spectacle, the youth will abandon us and football will stop being a central part of our lives. He says, my research has told me that the people that are in between ages 8 to 25 have stopped watching football and they prefer to play on their cell phones. This has transformed everything completely for our children. The one thing that I think I look at these things when people talk about this stuff. I am somebody who spends a lot of time on social media, spends a lot of time. It's actually part of my day job apart from doing these audios for Real Madrid Hub. The thing is, I work in social media. I work in this industry, of course, that has to do with tech. And the thing is, I don't know if necessarily changing the rules of football or anything is going to change the fact that kids are on their phones. I think the problem right now isn't whether or not these teams have more money to bring in better players. I mean, I don't think that's the thing that's going to solve the issue with the kids not being. I think it just has to be an all-around better product. That's why the Super League could be possibly something that if it's marketed better, and is more appealing, and you are more in tune with, you are grabbing kids' attention everywhere, essentially on all sorts of different platforms, whether they can watch the games on their phones, interact, all sorts of stuff where it's basically more interactive. That will be something that could potentially bring them in. The problem right now that I see, and this is just a personal opinion, is that unfortunately, at least here in the United States where I am based, in the United States, if you want to watch all of these leagues, and I think it's in other countries as well because I've heard other people mention it, you have to basically pay quite a bit of money to watch games. Essentially, these leagues, and I think this is a big problem, is each league, especially here in the United States, each league is tied to a different media platform. So what I'm talking about there is essentially that you have, let's say the Premier League is tied to NBC Sports here in the United States, and then you have the Serie A, which is tied to Paramount and tied to CBS, and so you have to buy that platform. Then you have to buy, like I said, you have to buy the NBC platforms in order to get the Premier League. If you want Ligue 1, you need to get beIN Sports. If you want Bundesliga and La Liga, you need to get ESPN and ESPN Plus. So you need to have four different subscription services in order to watch the leagues that you would like to watch. So you either have to choose which league you want to be following the most, so you can't really kind of jump into each different league and see different games because that would cost you quite a bit of money. Or you have to pick one league that you want to follow and maybe subscribe to that. But if you're a person that doesn't have a lot of money, and that's not something that's really in your interest to spend money on an extra subscription service, well, then you're all that is left is you pretty much got to catch highlights on YouTube. And that's a big problem. I mean, I think the accessibility right now of football is really strange, It's not like it's readily available everywhere, and I think that's one of the main problems of why the youth is not engaging with football, I think, for some of these other leagues and some of these other teams, such as Naples and some of these other smaller, I wouldn't say smaller teams, but these other teams that are not as big in name as, say, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, etc. It's for me, it's more about accessibility, and this might be on my own personal opinion, of course, but here in the United States, for example, which is where I am based, if you want to watch football, you have to essentially pay for a lot of different subscription services. And I know that this is the case. Let's say I've heard of things about what it costs to get Premier League coverage when you're in England and in other places around the world where it's not necessarily, and no one's talking about it being for free, but essentially that the prices are very high to get access to some of these leagues. So one of the things here is in the United States is if you want to follow, you have to have a bunch of different subscription services if you want to follow each individual league. So if you want to follow Serie A, you need to get Paramount Plus or CBS, and that's how you will follow them. If you want to follow the Champions League in English, it's the same thing. You would need CBS and Paramount Plus, or the Spanish channels, TUDN and those channels as well. So in addition to that, if you want to get the Premier League, you have to purchase either Peacock or everything tied to NBC Sports. If you want La Liga and Bundesliga, you need to get ESPN and ESPN Plus if you want to watch all of those games. So essentially, you have to get a variety of different subscription services in addition to cable TV in order to be able to follow any of these leagues more in depth. And that's the problem, is that the accessibility is not there. Because kids from 8 to 25, and 25 is already, not a kid, but from 8 to 25, especially a 25-year-old, I remember you're trying to really save money. You're not going to be spending, you're not going to be spending on 5 different subscription services that are each $10.99, $10, $11 a month in order to watch football. So what happens is you're going to find something else that's more easily accessible. Here in the United States, at least, the reason I think that the NBA, the NFL have the upper hand is essentially that even though there are networks that go more in depth into NFL and into the NBA that you can purchase, such as NBA TV and the NFL channel, the main games are still played on what is essentially free access TV or cable TV, but like the most basic packages of cable TV. So they're available to really everyone to be able to catch and watch on a very, very simple basis. And that is something that I think football needs to look at, because That is the problem that I think is accessibility. And I think the reason behind having a super league where all the top teams are playing in one league is essentially the idea, when you think about it, is that Florentino wants to be able to, or Florentino and all the people involved in the Super League are essentially looking at that. One place to watch all the top teams, get in-depth information to all of the top teams, make it accessible, and that is where you would go to watch the best games among the best teams. The problem is, once again, as De Laurentiis says, it needs to be a democratic system where the teams that really deserve to be in there are in there based on their national competitions. Now, if you want to watch, that's the problem though, is if you want to watch those national competitions, those leagues as we talk about, then you really got to shell out quite a bit of money. So it gets a little bit annoying. I have a lot of American friends that are not interested in football, or they do kind of like it. They know the big name teams and everything like that, but they're like, what are all these games? I don't understand. What is this league? What is that league? What is the Champions League? What is the Europa League? Wait, they're playing the Spanish Super Cup now, or they're playing the Club World Cup now? I mean, what? For them, there's always, it seems like, a different cup, which is strange to them. It's not one league and then one cup. It's a majority of cups. Like, for them, it just seems like football is being played all the time at different times. And then there's the World Cup, and then, so there's a lot of football going on all the time. And I think the thing is, the accessibility of being able to catch one place to find all of your football is something that, is sort of not available at the moment. And again, you have to shell out quite a bit of money. And that is why they're losing the youth, in my opinion, to other things that are just more accessible. Gaming and other sports, like I was saying, that is where I think they really need to start looking at. I don't think it has to do with, whether our team is getting more rich or not. That's just my personal opinion, and I've spoken about 12 minutes on that. But anyway, moving on to the next piece of news. Huge statement by Rummenigge, which is of course the former Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, which was of course the ex executive at Bayern, was speaking about that it's not a secret, essentially, that Real Madrid is planning a very big revolution in 2022. The priority is, of course, to get Kylian Mbappe tied to a contract in January and have him hopefully not renew with PSG, and that hopefully Haaland will be a priority when he finishes his current campaign with Dortmund. But the president, the president of Javier Tebas, says that he feels like the team that is most likely in place that could possibly get two of the best players in the world currently, Mbappe and Haaland, the team that is best positioned to do so in La Liga is Real Madrid. But he also, that was Tebas, but Rummenigge, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, has also said that he believes that Real Madrid is in a good spot to get both of these players. So basically he said to Bild, which is the German publication, he said, with Lewandowski, you have the best center forward in Bayern. And basically speaking about the Bundesliga, he goes, with Lewandowski, you have the best center forward in the world. Haaland is the second best. I think that Bayern has interest in that Robert stay at Bayern more, longer than his contract, which currently ends in 2023. Haaland is an investment. I don't think he would go to a place like Liverpool. I think Haaland, with Haaland, he basically says he would not be surprised if Real Madrid would get him. He says they might open up their checkbook a little bit more in the summer and possibly get both Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. So, big words there by Rummenigge, who recognizes that Real Madrid is doing a lot of work right now to get more players and to essentially position themselves once again as the best team in Europe. Moving on to that, just to eye on different transfers and possible transfers. Currently, it looks like Real Madrid is keeping their eye on the Belgian player Yuri Tielemans, who currently plays midfielder for Leicester City. He is a really good, solid footballer, and currently his contract will be ending at the end of the season. with Leicester. So it seems like of course, Leicester is very interested in having him renew, but the Belgian player at this point is not in a rush to renew yet. He is 24 years old. He has great potential. A lot of clubs are very much interested in his services. And Fabrizio Romano actually mentioned a few days ago that Real Madrid and Barcelona, as well as various clubs in the Premier League, are willing to go after Tielemans in 2022 if the possibility opens up. Tielemans actually with all the speculation, Tielemans actually said to Sky Sports that the transfer window just closed, and the only thing I'm trying to do right now is keep my options open. The more options there are, the better. But as long as I am here at Leicester, I am going to give everything for my club. I have already done it, and I am still willing to give a lot more. My contractual situation is a normal situation right now in the world of football. There are conversations that are currently going with the club, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to sign or that I am going to sign at the moment. And he goes, of course, and then it goes on to say this publication from Bernabéu Digital basically goes on to say that, of course, leaving it open, saying that the conversations are ongoing, but that doesn't mean he's going to sign or not sign. Of course, saying something like that leaves, question marks and I guess throws up red flags of whether he's going to renew or not. If you were going to renew, you probably would renew, So these declarations by him, of course, make the rumors about him potentially leaving Leicester City all the more interesting. So that is somebody that apparently Real Madrid is keeping an eye on. Youri Tielemans, solid midfielder out of Leicester City, and 24 years old, so he's somebody that they are currently looking at for Real Madrid. But in my opinion, of course, Real Madrid definitely needs to, I think the one thing we need to start fixing is definitely, if we're going after Mbappe and Haaland, which is obviously one of the priorities, we definitely still do need to look for another center back. That's the other thing that we need at Real Madrid. Midfielders, I think we have quite a few very talented midfielders coming up and currently at Real Madrid. Some of them are getting older, yes, but some of them, of course, we have some young guns coming up that are also very talented as well. So that's the news I have for the moment here at Real Madrid Hub. If you want to listen to more Real Madrid news, please make sure to subscribe to Real Madrid Hub. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button to get notified every time we update, every time JOTA posts something or myself. And once again, thank you for listening to Real Madrid Hub for all your Real Madrid